My name is Jessica Pena. I am a student at St. Thomas University. I am with the program of Bachelor's in English, and I'll be talking about a very important work of literature in the history of the world called Candide by Voltaire. So, in this presentation, I'm going to be comparing Candide with another very important work of literature called the Odyssey by Homer. So, first, we're going to be talking about the similarities between the two works of literature. First of all, both of them depict very long journeys with a lot of obstacles to overcome along the way. The word journey means a very long trip and with nearly impossible trip. And that's what both of these works of literature depict. Also, both of them travel with important motives relevant to their culture and the time period that they are in. What are the differences? First of all, the Odyssey presents two journeys. Odysseus' journey, returning to his polis in Ithaca, and Telemachus' journey back home to his Telemachus' journey to find his father and figure out what is going on with him. Why hasn't he returned home? Whereas Candide depicts only one journey, and that is Candide's journey in search for Cunegonde and his happiness. Okay. Another difference is that the main objective for Odysseus' journey is fame and glory, which in Greek culture is the maximum achievement. So in Greek culture, all men are supposed to be striving for fame and glory, to be recognized in history as doing something very important. And if you don't accomplish that in Greek culture means you haven't done nothing in life. You're just going with the flow. You're not doing anything important. And Telemachus' objective is to find the truth, to find out what happened to his father. Candide's objective is pursuing happiness and finding Cunegonde, which to him is the same thing. Cunegonde is his happiness. Okay. Odysseus has innumerable obstacles on his journey, among them gods who try to prevent him from completion, especially Poseidon. In the journey, Odysseus and his men confront a cyclops. A cyclops is a very big monster with one eye. So, and the cyclops try to eat them, and the only way to protect themselves from it is by blinding the cyclops. Odysseus grabs a spade and he pokes the eye, and obviously he can't see anymore, and he won't be able to find them and eat them. Cyclops is Poseidon's son, so that angered him, and of course he wanted to destroy Odysseus. And as you know, Poseidon is the god of the sea, and Odysseus was traveling by ship on the sea. So he tried to create, storms and make the water, turbulent, and making things very difficult for them to be able to make it home as an act of vengeance for the blinding of the Cyclops. Candide concluded what Dr. Pangloss taught him, that all is not well and that we must work in order to find some small amount of pleasure in life. So he set out there, to discover the world and to see, what is beyond the walls in Westphalia. I mean, Candide grew up in Westphalia with the Baron, his wife, and his daughter, Cunegonde. He doesn't know much about the world except for what Dr. Pangloss taught him. So, this journey was a way of discovering the world and putting into the test what Dr. Pangloss taught him. And, in the end, he does apply Dr. Pangloss's teaching of optimism, and, he still, ends up with Cunegonde. Okay. Odysseus must fully face the tragic consequences of his absence. While he has been seeking glory and adventure, his family has suffered a great deal. Penelope has been dealing with suitors coming to her house, eating her food, barraging her with questions, expecting her to, accept one of them in marriage because they wanted to rule the palace in Ithaca. And that's gonna be stressful. It's annoying, dealing with men all the time, the same men and constant badgering, and that's something that kind of upsets her a bit. And she has a very ingenious idea to try to buy herself some time and see if Odysseus appears. And what she was doing, she was making a shroud for her husband, a burial shroud. Actually, it was for her mother-in-law. I'm sorry. And she was, she will be sitting there all day long, sewing and sewing, and telling them that she needs to finish the shroud for her mother-in-law. So, they has to give her some time to think and make her an answer. And at the evening, when they all left, she would, break apart what she was sewing. So she would have to start all over again the next day, and that is a way to buy time. So it was very smart, and it was a way to try to, push them back, stop them so much badgering her. And well, at the end of the journey, Candide eventually achieves happiness with Cunegonde and his friends in their simple life. Well, in the end, Candide realizes that his love for Cunegonde was Don Quixote-like. It was like a fantasy. She wasn't beautiful anymore. She wasn't fit. She was fat. And he married her anyways because it was a promise he made to her. And she was a baron. She was a baron's daughter. She was, used to the fame and fortune, and she was used to having good things in life, and in a nice house, and being pampered. And with Candide, she didn't get that. He kind of liked farm life, and he bought a farm with what he found, what money was left from his journey to El Dorado. And he got a farm, and they ended up having a farm life, which was something that he liked. And it's very different from what Cunegonde is used to, but she had to accept that that's the life that her husband is giving her. Okay, now we're gonna be comparing the relationship between both main characters. So what are the similarities? Candide and Odysseus have loved ones to go home to. Both of them have women, important women in their lives that they love, and it's their major means for their journeys. Odysseus wants to get home to his wife Penelope, and Candide wants to find Cunegonde and marry her. What are the differences? Well, Odysseus, throughout the whole journey, knows where Penelope is. He knows she's waiting for him in Ithaca. Whereas Candide has no idea where Cunegonde is. All he knows is that she was taken the baron's house was invaded, and she was taken as a slave by a group of men. But she doesn't know where they took her. And towards the middle of the journey, he finds her in Constantinople, living with a Jew master. Okay, the love between Odysseus and Penelope is real and unwavering. Throughout the whole story, you can tell how strong a bond there is between Penelope and Odysseus. She waited for him for a long time, and she, fended off suitors, and she never tried to, build a life with another person for 20 years while she waited for him. Candide loves Cunegonde more than she loves him. She wavers on accepting his wedding proposal. When they were in Buenos Aires, he proposed to her, and she also received a proposal from a politician in Buenos Aires, and she had doubts on accepting his proposal, and she even asked the old woman who was taking care of her what he could do, like what she could do. She accept the politician's or the Athenian man's proposal, or she should accept Candide. So you could tell that love wasn't as strong as what Candide felt for her because of that. um, Penelope is loyal to Odysseus, and she waits for him for 20 years until he comes back from the journey. I mean, I already mentioned that's extreme loyalty for a wife. You wait for a husband for so long and not try to take up another husband and, rebuild her life. I mean, she was in a polis by herself. She's not a leader, and she was on her own with no man. So in Greek, that's a lot for a woman to handle. Back in the time, dealing with a polis all on her own, and her son is young, and no man in her life. And that's a lot. And Cunegonde loves Candide, but is willing to betray him for the sake of her own interests. Cunegonde wasn't as loyal to Candide as she had relations with different men, and she was doubting his love, and she wasn't as stable as unwavering as Penelope was with Odysseus. Okay, now we're gonna be talking about the author of Candide, Voltaire, and the different messages that he left in the story, and what he would say if he were alive today, and what he would say about how the world has become today. Okay, his literature contained satire and made fun of optimism, politics, religion, and human nature. Candide is full of satire, which is like a theme, a literal theme where you make fun, you poke fun about things, and you can see that Pangloss's character is very funny. It's very like comical. The way he thinks, and despite being killed, he still has this, you know, um, very cheery, sunny outlook in life, and you can tell that it's a way of Voltaire saying, okay, optimists are silly people. That despite all the hardships that happens to them, they still think that the world is perfect. The world is the best version of, where you're living is the best version of the world that you will live in. And you can see the politicians. I mean, they are really interesting people, and they have these corrupt. I mean, you see the clergy who was um, paying Paquette to sleep with him and take care of him. I mean, that's not what a priest does. It's very corrupt and very dirty. And that's what he's trying to depict, that people in leaders can be really dirty people, and they take advantage of power to inflict pain and torture to other people. And that's exactly what you can see with the politicians that Candide encountered and the clergy that was with the cat. Voltaire based his book on the assumption that humans have free will and are the only ones responsible for their actions and accomplishments. I mean, it's quite the opposite of what Pangloss was saying, the optimism. That's what happens with life, and it's not. He believes firmly that whatever happens to us is because we decide, make those decisions, and what happens to us is, based on what we want to do. It's based on us alone. And you can see it, like the clergy. I mean, he didn't become this dirty, man who's paying for a prostitute to, tend him. He decided on that on his own. It didn't just happen by miracle that Paquette came to his life. He decided it. As a large, um, as a large supporter of civil rights, especially freedom of speech and freedom of religion, he would be happy to see the development on these aspects of this era. But that is something he would like. He would see that we have freedom of speech, so we can express ourselves, we can go on the internet, and we can talk really bad about our president, and we're not going to get killed for that. As other countries, you can. Not the whole world. I mean, you can tell that if you go to countries like Israel, Pakistan, or Venezuela and Cuba. I mean, you can't just talk really bad about the president and criticize him because you'll be going to jail for that. Okay. Um, Another thing we're gonna talk about is Voltaire supported tolerance towards religions and ethnicities, largely distrusted democracy and opposed to any kind of slavery. So he's he loves, he protects, you have a rights, and that nobody has any right to abuse those rights and treat you bad, or enslave you, like what happened to Conegande and Paquette and the old woman. He just really doesn't like that. And though we should all have the freedom to express any religious beliefs that we want. And some countries you can. In other countries, you have another religion and you're going to be criticized and even killed for that. And that's happening in countries like India, China, Japan, Israel, and Pakistan. That war that has been going on for over 40 years, because Israelites are Jewish and the Pakistani are Hindus, and they live close by, and they have been fighting for a long time for territories. And It's terrible to see that happening. It's going on for such a long time, and they haven't. There's no, chance that they're ever going to make peace. It looks like it's going to be going on for a very, very long time. It's not going to stop. If Voltaire were alive today, he would be ashamed to see where human nature has gone. People being slaves to their electronic devices. I mean, you see people walking in the street with their phones in their hands. You can see people on, dates, and they rather check the phone than be with the person. There's even commercials on TV where they're trying to teach us a lesson. I mean, I've seen commercials that are very tough. I mean, there's a man there with his phone, and the kids are sad. They miss their dad, and we think, our father's dead or disappeared, and they're all upset. And then you turn around and they focus on the man on the phone. That's gotta be a really strong message, that leave the phone around behind, put it aside for a second and enjoy, what life has to offer. You have a nice family, nature, and you will be really upset for what's going on with electronic devices. And creating wars as product of great democratic failure. There are so many wars going on today for everything. Religion, beliefs. I mean, there are people being killed over a soccer shirt in Colombia. I mean, that's got to be really sad. Just because I like another team doesn't mean make me your enemy. Doesn't mean you're gonna kill me because I'm wearing a different color shirt. That's very, very, very sad and pathetic way of thinking. And that's something that's really going to upset Voltaire if he were alive today. And having hatred for people with different backgrounds. What is going on in this world? I mean, I see the news every day, and I am appalled that I'm different colored skin, so that means I'm gonna be killed for that. I speak another language. I don't speak English, and that's why I'm gonna be killed and be treated, be insulted and offended in public because of that. I mean, it's disgusting, and it's heartbreaking that people would have such small mindedness and do something like that to another person, another human being just like them. I mean, this is not something that Voltaire would have wanted for this world. And that's not something he was teaching in his many works of art, literature, and his different teachings. But there's message is that what is happening in the world is the product of people's passive acceptance. They do not accept responsibility for it. In order to create happiness, people have to be very active and work for it. Yes, he's gonna be saying that we all this because we sort of accept what our leaders are telling us, and we don't think for ourselves. We allow the politicians to rule our minds, control our minds, and that we have to think and act the way they do because they're our leaders. That's not true at all. They're human beings. We have a right to our opinions and protest. And I see a lot of passiveness, for example, with the president of the United States, Donald Trump. He's saying a lot of things that are very hurtful towards other religions, other ethnicities, and even women. He's very domineering, and he's very aggressive. And I don't, a few people protest, yes, but there are other people being passive about it. And that's really painful to see where our world has come to with with the way people are thinking and the way they're acting right now. And that's gonna be what I'm just gonna be saying if you're alive today. Okay, this is my presentation, and thank you very much. And I hope you like what I had to say.